Right. So building off of this, the moment the FEC was created, it gets challenged in federal court. People say this is an unconstitutional group. This is not a mandatory court case, so I didn't highlight it in the orange colors code. But Buckley v. Vallejo is historically significant because it's the first case that dealt with what is the federal government's constitutional role with campaign finance. The Supreme Court would basically establish this precedence. They would say that campaign donations are a form of the First Amendment. In other words, they would say your ability to donate money to a candidate or a political party that you feel represents your political beliefs is just a natural extension of your ability to express your political beliefs. While some of you may not agree with this is the ongoing precedent. From that point, basically the debate has been what's the proper level of regulation. BICRA is a law that got passed in 2002. I'm going to give you some key details about it. I didn't purposely color code them though, because I want you to practice synthesizing and coming up with a brief definition. As you're reading through parts 1, 2, and 3 of this description, you'll notice a reoccurring theme. When it comes to BICRA, to make it easy, to try to keep it as simple, again, notice I'm not asking you to write all this down, but to try to make it a more brief summary. BICRA eliminates all soft money donations. As this cartoon hints, for some people, they thought it was a major moment in defeating an unsurmountable Goliath. It was proposed by these two guys, John McCain, Chuck Feingold. And both of them are why the law was called the Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act, because the bipartisan piece reflects the fact that both of them came from rival parties. John McCain, probably a lot of you have heard of him, he was a Republican, Feingold a Democrat. So bipartisan is another one of those terms that isn't like a bold term in our textbook, but it is expected you understand what that means. If you want to make a side note somewhere in your notes, bipartisan, where does that come from? The idea that two parties came together. The Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act, or BICRA, as I'm going to call it basically from this point on, passed pretty easily. You can see the numbers here. However, just like the FEC, the moment BICRA was passed, it gets challenged in the Supreme Court. McConnell v. FEC is going to deal with this, and it basically is questioning, does a soft money ban violate the First Amendment? The McConnell you probably recognize, or maybe recognize, is this guy, Mitch McConnell, the current Republican leader in the Senate. He's been a politician for a long time. Him and a lot of other groups that filed amicus curiae briefs got together and said, we don't like BICRA. So what does the Supreme Court say? That's what's most important. Well, the Supreme Court rules that BICRA did not violate the First Amendment. The Supreme Court says, just like the government can regulate speech and like where you can express speech or how you can express your speech, just like the government can regulate the idea of what freedom of religion means, they can regulate this other First Amendment protection. Basically, what the Supreme Court said is, BICRA wasn't taking away that right, it was just adding some more regulations. The McConnell ruling is going to basically represent this ongoing shift. Some justices, like Justice Stevens, wanted to totally go against the Buckley v. Vallejo ruling, but that didn't happen. Now, this court case is significant because it only lasts as in precedence for under a decade. The Citizens United v. United case is going to further muddle things up because this actually flips the script and says, actually, BICRA, you are unconstitutional. And it gets rid of BICRA, and it basically establishes the idea that there shouldn't be as many regulations. And it creates something called super PACs. That's what your homework's on. Your homework, the video will give you more context.